Might help if I turn on the mic. Hello, everyone. George is here as well. Simon, it's a kitty cam type of day. Yeah. Hello. Hi, Claudia. Hi, Simon. This is probably gonna be a quick discussion, because it's just me, and yeah, I read this. Let me backtrack. Hold on. Word's hard. I'm still getting coffee in my system at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But what are we doing here today? We are discussing The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia A. McKillip. This was, I don't know how time works. June's pick, because I don't know how to plan properly, and on top of that, I was in a weird reading, not slump, but I don't know, something was going on with my reading, and so I had to delay this from May to June. So yeah, this is it. Spoiler alert, I did like it. I not gonna lie, I was expecting to love it, like be obsessed with it. So I was a little disappointed in myself that I didn't absolutely become obsessed with it. But I will be reading more Patricia A. McKillip because her writing was really interesting. I really liked her writing in this. This was published in 1974, which, for anyone participating in Reddit Fantasy Bingo, this works for the 1970s hard mode square, because it's written in the 70s and by a woman. But yeah, so written in the 1970s, and you, at least for me, I can really feel that kind of that shift. It's right in the midst of that shift from more classic modern fantasy to more modern fantasy ? It just feels, you can feel the influences of things like Lord Dunsany's The King of Elfland's Daughter and Hope Mirrorless's Blood in the Mist, and I would argue a little bit of Tolkien as well, at least from what I know of Tolkien's writing, to be fair. So you see the influences of those works and of the fantasy upbringing, I guess, that Patricia A. McKillip was in on this book. And then I absolutely and utterly see the influences that this book, however intentionally, unintentionally, directly or indirectly, had on modern fantasy of today. There were so many things here that, one thing in particular here that made me, essentially, I would be very surprised if Robin Hobb did not read this book specifically and was influenced by Patricia A. McKillip and Eld. But we can get into that in more detail when we get into spoilers. But spoiler free, again, I did like this book. It did take me a while to get into it because of McKillip's writing. It's this kind of in between of more classic writing and then modern, and it just took some getting used to. It's not epic in any way, but it's also not specifically intimate either. It's this kind of in between, which does take some getting used to, or at least it did for me. But I wound up really enjoying it. Sorry, I should probably look at the chat. It is a giant cup of coffee. This is a large iced coffee with 2 pumps of mocha from Dunkin' Donuts with oat milk. But yeah, yes, this is a pretty copy. This is the 50th anniversary edition that Matt so kindly gifted to me. This is the hardback, which I think is so cool. I love that. Yeah, very cool. Anitha just checked her review. She really loved the thematic elements in this book. Yes, so that's another thing that I did really enjoy. I loved the thematic elements, but I don't know, there's just some je ne sais quoi aspect of it, I guess, that I didn't tip me over the edge into like absolutely adoring it. But the thematic explorations of excuse me, of self and nature versus humanity, and well, not even humanity, but the world, like being insulated versus being a part of the wider society. I thought those were great explorations. Claudia hasn't finished her reread because of her slump, so she gets it. Hey, at least it's a reread, so it is beautiful. Simon read the ebook. Like Sybil, I desire a remote crystal dome to keep my animals and books in and never be troubled by men again. Fact. Absolute fact on my part. Simon, that's Fireside Intelligentsia review. Tell us about the smash, rush, boom, boom, like a true alien's Sandrine. Yeah, so I loved this enough to tab it, and not just because we were going to be discussing. I did find a lot of value in this book, and actually even on top of tabbing and highlighting stuff, what I actually did, however sacrilegious this is, I actually kind of not necessarily wrote a summary of each chapter, but I was writing my thoughts after each chapter in the book itself. And I wrote some thoughts inside as well, like as I was reading. So, like this note I have: not afraid of fear itself and no fear of death. Which that was another exploration, like the fear of something. And yeah, no spoilers. What else can I say about no spoilers, or say with no spoilers? So what is this book about? I suppose it's about Sybil and the titular Forgotten Beasts of Eld. It actually doesn't start, you don't get introduced to these titular beasts until actually pretty far into the book, I think. At least in any meaningful way. There is mention of these beasts being kind of gathered in chapter 1 by her grandfather, which that was actually surprising. Was we're not introduced to Sybil at the start, we're introduced to her grandfather and then father in the first chapter. And yeah, it's so the blurb of this talks about Sybil. She's the heiress of powerful wizards and needs the company of no one outside her gates. In her exquisite stone mansion, she's attended by exotic magical beasts: Riddlemaster Siren the Boar, the treasure-starved Dragon Guild, Goyles, whatever, the Lion, Tawny Master of the Southern Deserts, Tur, the fiercely vengeful Falcon, Moria, Feline Lady of the Night. Sybil only lacks the exquisite and mysterious Lyrlin, which continues to elude her most powerful enchantments. But when a soldier bearing an infant arrives, Sybil discovers that the world of man and magic is full of both love and deceit, with the possibility of more power than she can possibly imagine. So that is the blurb. That is like the catalyst of this book. But again, it doesn't start until like probably I don't know. I just feel like it was slow going. It wasn't like a sudden, like, I don't know, burst of, I don't know, this wasn't even plot driven. It's not a smash, smash, boom, boom book, Simon, unfortunately. But it also wasn't like a purely thematic exploration either. Again, it was like kind of like an in-between. Simon found the beginning very charming. He liked the peaceful vibe and the animals. It's the mid-book when things got rough for me. So, it started off very slow for me at the beginning, and then by the middle of the book, I actually was really captivated by it. It was the end that, and I put it in the Discord, like, the end of the book was the way I feel about the end of the Game of Thrones TV show, where I don't disagree and I have no problem with how the actual, like, ending occurred, like what happened. It's the how we got to the end and how we got to the choices that were made, if that makes sense. It's just, I don't know. It was weird. But Simon's beast is biting him. Anissa was going to share her review, but it's too long to post. It is definitely slow going. Yeah, so I guess getting into spoilers, it's just us, so right? It's fine. It's not like anyone's going to watch this after the fact, but getting into spoilers. This, again, I like the fact that we actually are introduced to Sybil through her lineage and how she inherits these beasts that her father and her grandfather were collecting. And I think that's actually one thing that they don't really talk about until we get more into Sybil's perspective and her well, actually, I take that back. On chapter 1, it talks about how her grandfather, I think it was, spoke rarely to men with his brief, rough voice, but when he touched a horse, a hungry dog, or a dove in a cage on market days, the fire would surface in his black eye, and his voice would run sweet as a daydreaming voice of the Saloon River. So, like, there's a reference to the connection with animals, but I don't think, actually, now that I'm reading this again, they're collecting the stuff. I don't think they actually talk about her father and grandfather having the calling ability, and it's Sybil that has the call, or the ability to call, not just, I would say not just animals, but then I was going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but to call creatures, including humans. And that's the thing that I was like, Robin Hobb must have read this book, or it must have been like in the collective conscious of fantasy genre fans at the time and fantasy genre readers, because the magic in this, Sybil's ability to call, of communicating and also controlling people, reminded me so much of the wit and the skill, and it was almost uncanny for me as I was reading it. And yeah, I just thought that was like so fascinating. And the actual animals themselves were so charming. I love Cyril, Sirin the boar, and he is amazing. He is indeed a wise old boar. Sybil is a complex character. She's outside society and law and has few boundaries, but when she's threatened, she behaves in a very scary way. I worried that Sybil was just becoming Mithrin. Yeah, I think that was a like intentional aspect on the part of McKillip is, well, I mean, I think Sybil even mentions it, like how she could easily have become what Mithrin was. And I do wonder if the aspect of like him being the one to actually try and control her is the thing that changed their fates in a way. Anitha says, I mentioned Ogam calling her mother part, not knowing whether she consented to having a child, made me uncomfortable. Oh, great point. That's great. I don't think. Did I miss that? So that's that. I guess that's the other thing is like this is so. At the beginning, it is so not sparsely, but like they don't dive into details until we get to Sybil's character. Where is it? Oh yeah, Owen called also to him the oldest daughter of the Lord Hurst, as she rode one day too close to the mountain. She was a fair, beautiful child woman, frightened of the silence and the strange, gorgeous animals that reminded her of things on the old tapestry in her father's house. She was afraid also of Ogam, with his sheathed still power and his inscrutable eyes. She bore him one child and died. The child unaccountably was a girl. Ogam recovered from his surprise, eventually named her Sybil. Great point. That also makes me uncomfortable. Ew. Alright. Ew. I think there's, I wonder if there's something, there might be something there with also the men having this ability to call and their literal power and how they use it. So Ogam calls and compels essentially Sybil's mother. Mithrin wants to control Sybil, and Sybil, she can and does call people, including Corin, but she doesn't abuse them in any way. Not that I can recall. Yeah, so you see the same with Corin and Dread. She's not a good witch. She's a I'm not part of society, leave me alone or else witch. That's true. And how she treats Corin is just awful. You don't marry a man who loves you truly because you want his family's army or for your revenge project. Listen, speak for yourself, Simon. But yes. But Sybil realizes at the end and won't go that far, and that's what makes a difference. Yeah. Hi, Tharnal. Corin saves Sybil from herself. So that's the thing that bothered me about the end of the book, is that Sybil is this very, again, especially for being in the 1970s, where you're at this kind of crux of classic fantasy versus more modern fantasy, and I use those terms in relation to more like epic world building type fantasy versus more character focused fantasy. That's something that bothered me about the end of this book, is the dynamic between Corin and Sybil. I do feel like not necessarily her agency was stripped away, but that the emphasis and the importance of Sybil as a character was kind of undercut by Corin. And especially like the physical violence, like he slaps her at one point, and it's just nothing comes of it. No one does anything about it. And it just, that was really, really uncomfortable for me. Just the physical violence against women. At the same time, Sybil is the one that is controlling everyone. So there is, I'm also pretty uncomfortable with that, but I guess it's, there's a distance there when it is magic, I suppose. Yeah, we are spoiling everything. So Sorry. Hi, Matt. Have we talked Evie into upgrading to 5 stars? Not yet, unfortunately. Mithrin wants the rare and beautiful thing. His desires for Sybil is a mirror to Sybil's desires for the Lyriline. That's true. That's true. I don't know what point I made. I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, so that's the thing that I struggled most with. But going back to just like things that happened, it's speaking of the Lyriline, like this whole thing about the Lyriline, and it seemed like a throwaway line, and I didn't think it was gonna go anywhere until there was I feel like it was an unearned reveal that the thing was the Lyriline and was essentially, what did they say? It was like herself or something. I can't remember, but I have a note here. Tam. Whatever, it's fine. But the reveal that the thing is the Lyriline that she had been looking for this entire time, and that she was the bird. I feel like that could have been more fleshed out. I think there were a lot of, not jumps in logic, but there's a lot of trust in the reader to go along with that aspect. But I did like the aspect of the thing. It actually, early on, when the thing was still this unknowable thing, that was actually really, really compelling, and unexpectedly dark, for me, and at times genuinely terrifying. Like this thing killing people, for Sybil was really, really fascinating and compelling. Simon, question for Evie in the group. I think Sybil mishandled King Dread very badly, and that causes everything else. Do you agree? I do not say she deserved what happened, just that it's a consequence. So I think it all stems down to, I guess, going back to like the catalyst, I suppose, if there was not a single like point catalyst, but the fact that she's raising Tam, who is the quasi-adopted son of King Dread, even though that's not his actual son. I think her not trying to control him, but protect him from the world is honorable, and I would argue that she gave him the freedom to go out into the world, and meet his father, and then subsequently go to the castle or whatever with King Dread. It is the catalyst, or the mishandling, I suppose, and that's the consequence. It's nothing that Sybil did in particular. It's that other people were bringing the consequences to her, if that makes sense. It just again, it reminds me of Realm of the Elderlings, in particular, a particular book, Fool's Errand, where you, without spoiling anything, where you have a character who is content with their life, and the world, the politics, the society that's going on outside of his little bubble just comes into his life again, and that's the thing that kind of sets everything off. It's the influence and impact of the wider world on an individual that causes the consequences. If Sybil had just been left alone, and she wasn't kind of entreated by Tam and others to have an impact on the world around her, asking for her help and for her powers and stuff like that and support, I think that would have, like, we wouldn't have had a book. Let's be honest. And I actually would have probably liked seeing her just in her world, and I am actually really sad that she got. Oh, hi, George. I don't know, not sad, but, like, I don't know. I just wish she had stayed in her little area, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. No recollection. So the Learlin, I probably already said this, and then I just haven't gotten down the chat yet. But the Learlin was the mythic, like, amazing bird that Sybil wanted, and then it turned out, like, she kept having dreams and visions, and there was this imagery of a bird being trapped, especially when Sybil was caught by Mithrin, and then the Thing killing Mithrin, all this stuff. Turns out that the Thing is Learlin. So so Dread is the king. So there is Corin and Dread as the two kind of, not leaders. Well, Dread was a king, but Corin was like the leader-ish of the other side that was trying to essentially control Tam. Corin was the one that got took Tam to Sybil as a means of control and protection for the world, and let Tam grow up. Anyways, sorry, whatever, it's fine. But yeah, Dread was the king whose wife had an affair, essentially, and had a child, aka Tam, out of wedlock, or at least not out of wedlock, but Dread's illegitimate child. She had an illegitimate child with what's his face, starts with an R that I'm forgetting, while she was married to Dread. Long story short. But oh yeah, there you go. Simon already answered it. Learlin is the super magic bird Sybil desires for her collection and calls the wool book, and it's called Blamor. By the way, the whole thing being called Blamor / Romalb, that was a little silly. To be honest. But yeah. My criticism of her books is mostly they could be more fleshed out. They're very short in a fairy tale way. Yes. So that is also another thing, is, again, this, like, in between, kind of, not critical time. What's the word I'm looking for? This kind of transitional time within fantasy, where you have these influences of fairy tales, of fairy type stories like Lord of the Mist and all that stuff, but it also at the same time feels modern. George, can you go lay down? Thank you. Apparently, everyone is playing a Riddle Master trilogy read along without me. It's fine. Claudia called it. I don't know. Oh god. I'm way behind on chat. I'm sorry. Matt loves Alphabet of Thorn. Simon Sybil is used to having no equal, so she treated Dread as an inferior instead of as the king, and his reaction was Mithrin, and that, which was awful. Yes. the aspects, the explorations of control were really interesting in this book, because when you think about it, Sybil is being just as controlling as everybody else, and it kind of escalates as you go on. And at the end, when she frees all the creatures, the beasts, I do think that is her way of exercising, I don't know, not acceptance, what's the word? It's working through her trauma of what became, like, what was that, which I read that scene as assault, by the way. I don't know if anyone else read it that way as well, but that was my interpretation. Particularly when there was the mention, Sybil talks to what's her face, her the old lady, Melga, and she says, she tells her that Mithrid ripped her dress, like the emphasis on that, and I'm like, that's gotta be assault. It's the 70s way of, having code, essentially, for that. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. What was I talking about? I don't know. Whatever, it's fine. Good King Dread, need to read Riddle Master. It's locked then, Big Buddy read Riddle Master. Okay, cool. So, calling it. Okay, everyone's just going in chat. It's fine. It's true. More like Forgotten Leaves have smelled. Riddle Master Trilogy was one of the series, but he didn't pick it. Oh, interesting. Okay, tell us what you think of the animals. Either which were your favorite. I'm a Syrian boar stan myself. Syrian was indeed a wise old boar. Knowing that she had a book and or trilogy called Riddle Master, I'm like, wait, is this like a crossover of either Siren was in Riddle Master and it appears here, or vice versa, Siren appears in Riddle Master? Like interesting that we have two riddling type situations going on. I personally, let's see, which one did I like? I really liked Tur, the Falcon. He's a cool dude. Also, everyone loves a dragon, let's be honest. He just wants his treasure, dadgummit. He was cool. I don't know what you were 100%ing me on, because I have a short-term memory. Okay, okay, yes. So it wasn't just me that was thinking it was assault. That's why Anita understands her desire for vengeance. Yeah, and then that scene being the reason why she, going back to your point from before, Anita, that being the reason for her marrying Corin in order to get vengeance, like, I get it. Oh, okay. You also okay. You Googled it. Did Google tell you that it's connected? But anyways, yeah. So it's so yeah. I guess to take a step back, let's talk about Corin, Dredd, and Sybil and their dynamic. And then also Mithrin to a degree. Like all these three men wanting and desiring Sybil for obviously various reasons, but particularly Dredd and Corin wanting to marry her. And this felt very proto-romantasy, in my opinion. Mind you, I haven't read much romantasy to be fair, so take that statement with a grain of salt. But it does feel like, especially with the inspirations and the impact of things like Blood of the Mist, Keen of Elfland's Daughter on this book, and then subsequently romantasy typically being a lot of like fae type situations, it just feels like a historical progression of the genre. And I thought this was going to turn out to be like, oh god, is this going to be like a love triangle situation? What's going on? That it didn't go that way was actually really refreshing. And actually, I'm gonna kind of what do you call it? I'm going to counteract myself. I don't know. I'm gonna go against myself. That Sybil is the one who has the control of saying, hey, I'm going to marry Corin, not because she loves him, which she allegedly does. That's debatable. She is marrying him for control and for her own means. That actually is really, really refreshing, and very much a strong female character type move, in an actual sense of the term. And I thought that that gave her a lot of agency, and really compelling character development in that act. So I mean, I understand Sybil's desire for vengeance, but not one leaving Tam with Dredd after that and using Corin like that. Yeah, I mean, again, the explorations and the meaning, their various depictions of control, and let's face it, manipulation, were really interesting. And I would argue actually none of these characters are good. None of them are good. This is not a good versus evil type situation. That all of these characters are, to varying degrees, incredibly flawed. Not in a morally gray, love to hate type situation, but they do feel more human in the real world, our world sense, than these fantastical characters. So yeah, I do like that aspect of it. Such terrible decisions to ruin the ones that love her. Indeed. Sybil is a romantasy main character, so of course all the men desire her the second they meet her. Rolls eyes. Indeed. Also, everyone wanting Fitz in Assassin's Creed. That's... Oh my god, Fitz is a romantasy character! Confirmed. The Changeling Sea. Is that also by McKillip? The Changeling Sea has a proto-romantasy feeling too. I need to... Hold on. The Changeling Sea. The Changeling Sea. Oh, also from McKillip. Oh, cool. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to read that. The way she lies to Corin and uses his family was just not okay with me, and she realizes it at the end. Yeah, she does like realize essentially what she's doing is what Mithrin and Dread were wanting to do with her, and she realizes that. So she has this like epiphany, which was really nice. But again, going back to, I don't know, this could have been great. This could have been a 5-star book. I think I rated it 4 stars. I think the reason that I rated it 4, well, not even I think. The reason I rated it 4 stars is because of the conflicted feelings I have. Well, not even conflicted. The yeah, well, lack of a better term. The conflicted feelings I have about the end of the book and the lead up of that. If I've truly felt that Sybil loved Corin, I think I would have understood it. There was just a lot of statements of that. I didn't really feel the love there. Again, even though I know it was written in the 70s, it's whatever. And then also, again, the like Corin, there's no kind of mention of Corin slapping her, as he doesn't say sorry. He doesn't come to like realization like, oh my god, I physically, physically abused you. Like that's just, I don't know. That's I just don't like that. I don't like that. We men are expected to be flawed. And Ethan says, it's funny this book has so many flawed male characters, but Simon spent entire discussion complaining about how bad Sybil is. Like, men are allowed to be flawed, but she can't. Sybil is the main character. You want to talk about Corin's brother being dumb medieval bros? That's true. Corin's brothers are dumb medieval bros. But yeah, no, like going back to this though, like I know that Joanna loves Sybil. She named her as like favorite character on the mid-year freakout tag thing that she did with Alan. And I can see why she is a favorite character, and she could be a favorite character of mine. She is really compelling. She is really she's complicated. And especially going into what she does and why she does things are complicated. And I don't, maybe this is the crux of my conflict, is that this book is complicated. These characters are very flawed, and it is not there's not a clear delineation between good and evil. Not to say that it's, it's gotta be black and white type situation where good wins over evil, but more the case of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Again, it's in that transitional period where I don't know, it's doing, maybe it's misplaced expectations for me, to be honest. I don't know. I think I was expecting more King of Elfland's Daughter and The Last Unicorn type situation, and this is not that. This is much more complicated than things like The Last Unicorn, even though they were written within, I think, 5 years of each other. And again, I know The Last Unicorn is by a different author, so whom among us would not desire a hot witch? That's true. Like, who wouldn't? 1, I will discuss more when I reread and remember more. 2, Sybil was driven with vengeance, but she realized at the end, unlike Mithrin and the other guys, I mean, men, am I right? And 3, it's very possible I don't remember some stuff. Listen, you remember more than I do. Sorry, had to cough. Sybil's father and grandfather were not good guys and removed themselves from the world, but Sybil becomes greater because she learns to love. Yeah, love. The answer to all the world's problems is the love, or the lack thereof. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what else I can say about this book. Again, it's complicated. My feelings about this book are complicated. This book is complicated. The characters are complicated. And maybe I am convincing myself to up it to like a 4.5. But that's something that I enjoyed about it. Like, this is not even a book that is ripe for discussion. It's more, at least for me, a book that is ripe for reflection. And how, I don't know, well, no, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's not necessarily a book for discussion, but more a book for reflection because of how complicated it is. Yeah, so Simon did love the end. She really does a U-turn, and then this goes from dark to rather heartwarming. I love a happily ever after in romantasy. That's true. Who was it that asked? Mike. Mike actually was asking if a happily ever after is required in romantasy. So I don't remember if you, Simon, did you answer that question? If you didn't, I'll message you. I'll tag you in the question he had. So it was really interesting. And Reed, thank you, and thank you. Oh yeah, thanks. Thank you, Matt, for getting me the book. Thank you, Anita. I think you're the one that put this on the poll that won. And actually, speaking of the book club, as you probably already know, I rebranded the book club. It's no longer Bender Book Club, unfortunately, RIP. But it was only a book club because branding. And next month, and by next month I mean July, which is this month, we are reading The Golem and the Genie by Helene Wecker, which I did not know, but this is apparently going to be a trilogy because the third book comes out this year or next year. So this is this month's book, July. I will plan to have the discussion I'm aiming for the first Saturday in August for this. And then August's book is going to be, because I made an executive decision. Actually, I have it somewhere. There you go, right here. It is Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon by Mizuki Sugimura. I read Lonely Castle in the Mirror a few years ago and absolutely adored it. And Kai has had this on as his pick since January, I think. And I just made an executive decision that we are going to read this book because I'm feeling this vibe. And it's Japanese translated fiction from translators Yuki Tajima. And I will just actually hold on, let me go back. Whose pick was the Golem? This was actually Matt's pick. So I'm pretty sure it was Matt's pick. Yeah, I think it was Matt. It's true. I am becoming a tyrant. Yes, it does come out soon. So anyways, I guess Golem and the Genie. Hava is a golem, a creature made of clay brought to life by a strange man who dabbles in dark Kabbalistic magic. Ahmad is a genie, a being of fire born in the ancient Syrian desert. Trapped in an old copper flask by a Bedouin wizard centuries ago, he's released accidentally by a tinsmith in a lower Manhattan shop. Struggling to make their way in 1899 New York, the Golem and the Genie try to fit in with their immigrant neighbors while masking their true selves. Meeting by chance, they become unlikely friends whose tenuous attachment challenges their opposing natures until the night a terrifying incident drives them back into their separate worlds. But a powerful menace will soon bring the Golem and the Genie back together again, threatening their existence and forcing them to make a fateful choice. Marvelous and compulsively readable, The Golem and the Genie weaves strands of folk mythology, historical fiction, and magical fable into a wondrously inventive and unforgettable tale. Just looking at the blurbs. No blurbs that I really know of. Yep, no blurbs that I know of. It's fine. But yeah, so this is July's book. And then the premise for, or the blurb for Lost Souls Meet Under Full Moon, which is August's pick, is there anyone from the afterlife you wish to see? So asks the smart young man Ayumi to his clients, who have come to him for a reunion with the person who once changed their life. Ayumi's clients must follow strict rules. The deceased cannot have been summoned by anyone else. They may refuse, and they must meet under a full moon. Anxious Hirasi asks to see the celebrity who showed her kindness at a critical moment. An arrogant man wants clarity about the family home from his beloved mother. After a fatal accident, a schoolgirl has a question for her former best friend. A salaryman wants to ask the only woman he ever loved what caused her to run away. With each reunion, tantalizing clues are scattered for readers to piece together the emotional truth in this mesmeric and unputdownable tale of kindness, compassion, and connection. Who would you like to see? So, yes, that's Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon. So, cool. I am already so many. It was your pick. Okay, cool. Sal's not in the Discord, just so you know. Just FYI. Matt does have good taste in books. Which, Matt, by the way, just so you know, I'm still reading volume 2. I'm hoping to finish it today. Like 100 pages left. Do you really have 13 books on your TBR this month, Anita? And I can barely read 3 in a month too, so I get it. All right, yeah. Anyways, that's it. I got nothing else. So Simon says you should quit Gentlemen Bastards and read along. You don't enjoy it. And Anitha says Alan will kill me. That series was my pick for the read along. It's true. So yeah. Anywho, I got nothing else to say. So to bring it back to here, this is a complicated book with complicated characters and complicated themes. And would I recommend it to people? Yes. Question mark, but not question mark. Again, it's complicated. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for enduring my rambling and incoherent thought process. Yeah. See you guys next. I was going to say next month. Yes, next month. So again, aiming for the first weekend in August for the discussion of the Golem and the Genie, which I will be starting after I finish the Emma Lyon Volume 2. So I will be sharing thoughts as I read. Hopefully some of you guys can join me on that one. Yeah, otherwise, thank you. Chadia, Simon, Matt, Anitha, Tharnal. I don't think I missed anybody. Thank you for joining in chat. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.